Okay, good afternoon. It's 3 p.m. on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. And this meeting of the Sandpoint Parks and Recreation Committee is now called to order. For the record, I'm Chris Ankeny, presiding in the City Council chambers in City Hall, 1123 Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. Cool. Members present or absent. Looks like everyone's in attendance today. We will now proceed with approval of the minutes from the commission's last meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the November 13, 2024 meeting.
So moved.
We now have a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from last meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, we don't have any old business listed on the agenda. New business. We have Jason here to talk about two different things. Are we talking about the Parks Capital projects first?
I believe so. And I think Maeve, you're talking on that?
Oh,
Yeah.
Maeve showed up. Hi, Maeve.
Hi, Maeve.
Hi.
Does everybody know Maeve and myself? I think I introduced myself at your first meeting. Jason Welker for community planning and development, which we do. Katie, awesome. Basically, we have a great team here. We did ask for some time of yours today to present to you some of the projects that we're doing in 2025 that were budgeted way back in like May and June this year, well before the first Parks Commission meeting. But we're also planning ahead because we have to do that here. And then, believe it or not, we start working on the 2026 budget in like January and February coming up this year. The fiscal year starts October 1st, as I think you know. And Parks with the James E. Russell Sports Center opening up on Monday, we're really at the end of the biggest year in history for Parks capital spending at the city. That was an $8 million project, just that. And we did at the skate park and the playground and bike, bicycle skills course all happened in the last year. I think you guys know the history of the local option tax. We had 7 years of a 1% sales tax that helped pay for the multi-million dollars of improvements in Memorial Field. But the era of big parks budgets is really coming to an end. Like right now, it's the occupied sports center, and we're going into the normal. It's been 10 years really since we've had a normal parks budget because of that local option tax. But the normal parks budget is really just based on the revenues we earn from our parks facilities, such as the moorage at City Beach. The RV campground at City Beach is actually our second largest income earner. We're going to be talking about that with you today. And then the use of all our facilities. The sports center has been, budgeted to operate on a self-sustaining basis, where revenues from operating the sports center will cover its cost of operation, but that won't generate funds that could be put into parks capital improvement. That doesn't mean we don't have money to spend on parks. It means we have to be creative in finding the big dollars to help us do parks projects. And that's what I invited Maeve here to talk to you about today, because the big parks funds available in the state of Idaho are through the Idaho Department of Parks and Recreation. And their grant applications are all due at the end of January. So the reason we really needed your time today was we can't apply for grants at the city without approval from city council. And there's only there's only 2 more city council meetings between now and the time that grant deadline is due. So the Parks Commission exists to run ideas by and to share proposals with. And that's what we want to do with you today, because there's some grants in the Department of Parks and Recreation that we believe would be appropriate for the Parks Division based on some of the work that's been done in the planning realm in the past, but also the mayor's direction. The mayor has given us some priorities to focus on and asked us to find the money to do those projects. So we're bringing those projects to you today. Before we get into those future projects, Dave wanted to give you guys just an update on what was planned months ago for the coming year. As we wrap up the Travis Park projects this fall, some of that's going to have to be completed in the spring because of weather conditions. specifically the landscaping splash pad. But we also have some other projects that were budgeted months and months ago that we wanted to share with you. So I'm gonna let Maeve talk a little bit about those. And then she's been so busy at Traverse Park, guys, like just working like literally all day, every day at the park. So I've written the staff report for next week's council meeting about the next projects, but really those aren't gonna be my projects. Those are gonna be Maeve's projects to oversee as well. So I'll pass this around once Maeve's done with her update, and you guys can see the staff report that I've drafted for next week's council meeting. There are 2 action items on the agenda today for you, and those are really just to give you the opportunity to either voice your support or not, or lack of support for the 2 grants that we're planning to apply for in January. So we'll get to that. That's agenda item number 3. But first, Maeve's going to talk a little bit about parks capital improvement projects that are already planned for next year.
And a little update on what we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Cassie's out. I didn't do that, everybody.
My son is gonna be so jealous.
I don't make enough money to buy. Okay, I can pay you back. If you don't have kids, I encourage you to take them home. Those of you with kids, you probably have a platter. So, today, I'm passing out these cars. Why, guys? Why?
Why?
Does anyone have any ideas? Because the new playground has a race car track in it for Matchbox cars. I guess that's a brand, but for the little tiny cars. So the new playground was not supposed to be done this year. And I'm proud to say that what is it, the 17th? I don't even know what day that is, but before Santa Claus comes to town, the playground's gonna be finished. So that's a monumental deal because we actually had a full extra year to finish it. It doesn't mean it's 100%. It means all the playground equipment is done. The surfacing will be done. The nature play area will be completed. All the pathways, all the hardscape. But like Jason said, I couldn't get the landscaping done, even though I was out there on weekends and late at night and I had volunteers from the tennis and pickleball community, even though I begged and pleaded with all the contractors and said, I'm the biggest optimist, I'm sure we could be out here in the freezing, sleeting cold and mud. And then they just said, well, we can do anything, you're the client, but it will not be the best solution, especially given that the irrigation, particularly, those lines are very delicate. And if we started to lay them and put the laterals out to the plants, the ground's gonna settle. So while we could have gotten all the plants in, it's gonna settle out. And then the rain was washing everything down. So I gave it the most valiant effort in the world. And Jason was out there and all the volunteers. And thank you to anybody that might have been there from this room. But we didn't quite get that done. That's all right, because we're still reaching a substantial completion. So this spring, we'll come back as soon as the weather allows. We'll finish that planting. We did get a lot of our plant stock. I'd say about 75% of our plant stock is already at the site because we had tried, like I said, valiantly to get it all on the ground. And we healed it in is what it's called. So if you walk around and see, some of them are even staked. They look like they're planted. They're not actually planted. They're still in their ball and burlap. The trees were harvested that we have on site. Most of the trees that were harvested are harvested here locally up in Bonners Ferry, and they were harvested when they were dormant. And so we did that with the intention of hopefully planting this fall. But it just got so muddy, we just couldn't pull it off. So they've come back and they've healed them in, meaning they put soil and mulch around them. And we've created our own little protected area as well for some of them, but some of them were already placed in their holes. So we just filled it in and they're gonna be protected for the winter. And they're even staked. So I tell you that because there's gonna be rumors. Anyone that gets to see the park is gonna say, oh, these trees aren't gonna make it. Who planted this? It looks like, it's not gonna get, well, that's not true. They're not even planted. So if you could help spread positive news about that we actually know what we're doing. And if we don't, and if they die, they're warranted. So, hey, it's not a cost to the city. So that's the good thing there. And then also the splash pad, my crew is out there right now putting in the splash pad piping, and they're pouring concrete on the 16th for the splash pad. So then next year, all they'll have to do is come in and bolt down the pieces. And then they'll finish that up as well on the splash pad. So I think other than that, we're going to be able to do the opening before Christmas, hopefully the end of next week or right around just before Christmas. And the building received substantial completion last Friday. We got our certificate of occupancy, so their art crew is still there. They're finishing up the punch list, and that will carry on into early, probably the second week of January. They're still pulling down the curtains got sent back. They had some color problems with them, so we rejected them. When I say the curtains, they're the curtains on the inside of the building that go north and south. So we can't allow walking right now because that would be distractive to any of the court users. But once those curtains get put up, then you'll be able to have free walking all the time. But other than that, I think we're ready to hand it over to Katie and Daniel, and they're gonna have she'll tell you about it. They're gonna have their event starting on Friday night. There's a great movie in the park. And as soon as I get that playground open, I'll let you all know, and we'll have kind of what it's called a soft opening, where we just, pull the gates. We're not gonna do the press, we're not gonna do anything special, it's just, you'll get a notice from Jason, it's open, let folks know and come on over and check it out. Knowing that this spring we'll have the full game on, super celebration with the splash pad and everything. But you're welcome to take those cars. Again, if you don't have kids and don't have cars at home, you're probably first. You probably don't know about Matchbox cars being really cheap at the thrift store. Anyway, there's a cool little track on the top lot. All of the equipment that we put in is from this company called Landscape Structures. So the tot lot, as I call it, is one of the first things you see as you come through the gate, and that's for 2 to 5 year olds, but obviously anybody can use it. It's just designed for the little ones, and that's where the race car track is at the top. And then there's the merry-go-round, which the panels on the outside are all from a local artist. The Heather Upton and her art commission ran a call for artists. And so take a note of that art. It came from a local artist and one of her books that she did, children's books here in Sandpoint. So, and that merry-go-round is really cool because if someone's in a wheelchair, they can get into it and they can spin it themselves. I imagine there'll be like 10 kids in the whole thing. It's it can hold a lot of kids. They can climb on it. The surfacing at the beginning is like this muted yellow. It's the color of your Patagonia stripe. The reason that you're going to see that color and then you're going to see blue to symbolize water and then green. When you're designing places for kids with disabilities, particularly kids on the autism spectrum, they tend to need a desensitization warning before they go into a grass area. A lot of kids with autism, particularly if they're sensory on the sensory side, they hate grass. So you have to let them know that the grass isn't real that's in the playground, that it's just playground grass and it's not actually real grass. And so the way you do that is you desensitize them. So that's why we pick the yellow up front, and then you go on a concrete area and then you go into the blue, and then finally you get to the green turf. The turf is all set, it's ready to go. That turf company will also be back in the spring to do any repairs if we need it and fluff it up. But otherwise, we are ready to rock. What else? The nature play area. So that's actually been designed by a friend of mine that I went to college with. She's a professional landscape architect who works for one of the premier companies that designs nature playgrounds, Stock. They're out of Canada. And she was in their Colorado office. And I reached out to her when we didn't have enough money for that playground. And I said, do you think I could design my own? And do you think we could just use real rocks and real trees? We have all these trees we cut down. We're going to make them into something. Could they go not just in the landscape, but could they also go in the playground? And I knew it could be done, but I didn't know if we could get it through any sort of like an approval process. And sure enough, she said, send me your drawings. She whipped out a design. 2 days later, we had a design. So now you're starting to see that get built, and that will also be concluded on on Tuesday as well when we do the inspection. So pretty exciting. There's a roller slide that comes into it and stuff like that. And also Jason's asked me to look at, we had some extra turf from the playground. They always over order because they have to cut it in rectangle pieces. And so we have quite a bit. And so I was going to see how much we have and then compare it to how much more we would need to make that nature play area all uniform surfacing as well. Right now it's scheduled to be engineered wood fiber, which we would still have that in for the winter, but hopefully by spring we can pull that off. And also I might be able to get some donations to help bridge the gap to make that fully uniform surfacing, so also make that artificial turf as well. And then finally at the playground, we had a whole bunch of boulders and we are making a cool little amphitheater natural area just north of it, in between the playground, and there's a new sled hill. And it's gonna have like a little amphitheater with rocks and stuff, so it's also gonna double as an outdoor classroom. And then, I guess overall, the whole landscape, just so you're aware, it's all intended to be an ecological STEM lab. So when we were designing this, I had always intended that it could be utilized for education, and I'll be working with Heather Upton and probably some of you, anyone, if you're interested, we'll talk more about that in January. But we'll be kicking off kind of a signage project that's going to be about interpretive signage and what we can do as far as telling stories about the history, about the plants, about the people, about the park, the area in the park. And the landscape will speak to that. But you're going to see in this landscape, it's pretty muddy right now, and it doesn't look like you can go play in it, but it is intended that anybody can walk through it. It's intended to be interactive, and all of the gardens and the splash pad drain in such a way where there's the splash pad that goes into the buried tank and it filters the water, turns into a gray water irrigation system, or the drainage off the building or the rain, it all goes into something called a bioswale, and the bioswales are planted as rain gardens. So you're going to see them bloom when it's wet, or they'll suck out and they'll dry. So they'll have rocks in the bottom of them, and they'll be pretty bomber proof. They are actually engineered, not done by a landscape architect, well, in collaboration with a landscape architect, but the engineer had very specific specifications for how that drainage functions, and making it so that it's in alignment with best practices for those types of facilities, stormwater facilities. So it is a state-of-the-art facility overall, and it does collaborate nicely with the rest of the park and the other elements at the park. And then lastly, the lights are going to get turned on at the skate park. So I don't know if you were aware, but we have 5 outdoor lights that are going at the skate park. They are specifically designed for action sports, and they'll help reduce the shadows, and they're on timers. So the way that they'll work is you can turn on the lights anytime that the park is open. So right now we have the hours from 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. And if the kids want to turn them on, they just turn a dial. But after an hour, it turns off. And then automatically at 10 at night, it just shuts down. Now, if they're up to no good out there and they're being troublesome, then the main power is in the building, and the staff can turn it off without having to go out there and get into a fight with a bunch of teenagers. So, it's a really great way to mitigate, or flicker the power if they're up to no good. You can let them know they're being watched. And I do have safety. There are cameras all over that building and that facility, both indoors and out. So we did that as part of a safety surveillance system, just like they have them in the building. And I work closely with the chief on that. So yeah, we'll be able to know if there's things happening that they shouldn't be. But otherwise, things are rocking. And if anyone wants a tour, I'm out there pretty much all the day, every day, right now, in and out. This is the cleanest I've been in like 3 weeks. So come on out if you guys want a tour. And hopefully by Christmas week, you're gonna hear some chirp about coming to the playground. So that's all I have for that.
Any questions about this year's projects that are wrapping up from the commission?
Just a comment, thank you for all your hard work,
You're welcome.
dedication, sounds epic. And it sounds like you're at like
I
at
am
the end of the tunnel.
laid in right now.
Yeah.
I did all my billings last night.
Awesome way to
Yes,
end
you're
it.
kind of late. When you see the bills come through and you're like, oh my God, actually are, you're seeing the percentage and it's like, whoa, 90s, 100, whoa, we're finishing things. I can't even tell you whatever it is. It's been on Traverse. It's been 3 years for me. I started that project when I first moved here. And we actually started in November of 2021 was when I first met with the donors. So yeah, to see it come full circle is remarkable. Thank you.
Okay, so
Yes.
Traverse is wrapping up. The new fiscal year started a month and a half, 2 months ago now. What are we doing in the spring at Traverse Park with our capital improvement dollars?
Yeah, so based on the fiscal year budget, we determined that we would be able to continue finishing work out there. And the next project out there that is funded is the renovation of the existing outdoor tennis courts. They're already at like 60% design. I've kind of put it on hold as far as the design goes until I finish Travers, the rest of the work because I'm so busy. But I'll pick that back up in January. We'll get the design done and then we'll put it out to bid. So that shouldn't be too painful to anybody. It's probably gonna be no more than a month of being closed. Hopefully less, but I would say plan for a month of just that closure.
Do you expect that to impact the high school team?
No, we already talked to Ken, no. He's fine.
Planning on starting work on May 15th, which is the day after their last practice.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Yeah.
they're turning it.
Yeah, they're hosting districts. So
Got it.
they need all 8 courts for the district tournament.
Right.
Yeah. We were gonna try to,
And what-
try to do it
besides-
this fall, but Vegas.
Besides filling potholes and repainting the outdoor courts, what other components are included in that outside of the fence, the tennis courts?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Jason. So fortunately, we get to reuse pretty much all the fencing and the north courts are in great condition. So they're just gonna receive an overlay. The south courts have 100 linear foot long crack and it is approximately 10 foot deep. So what we'll have to do is the most economical way to rehab it instead of just cutting out just the crack is to actually excavate that whole south court. So they'll take the fence down on the south, they'll enter it, then they'll excavate down and pull all that material and replace it where it was bad material and build it back up. So it's an even lift. And then they'll resurface it with asphalt, match the existing grade, and then put a brand new coat over the whole thing. Paint, sorry. And the tennis community has requested that it's blue to match the indoors. That's probably something that I'll throw at you guys in a month when I actually am figuring out what color we should paint it. And you all can weigh in on that if that's the right decision to make. I personally don't have a preference. I don't play tennis and I've done both. Actually, I've done a couple different colors. I've seen red, I've seen green, I've seen blue. So I think it's pretty standard that they're turning blue right now, but you also have to see the green. So yeah, if that's something that folks are interested, I know Ken Anderson, the coach, is very interested in seeing it blue as well. Yeah, so
And landscaping.
yes,
pathway,
sorry. And
skate
then
park.
on the South Park. On the south part of the skate part of the tennis court and the north part of the existing or the new skate park expansion, there's about a 15-20 foot swath of mulch right now. And we put some boulders there and fabric down, but the intent is that we're gonna re-landscape that whole area. On our park staff, we have a part-time employee and he actually came from Dreamland, the skate park company. And he's gonna expand some things in there. We're gonna add a bench, put probably some shade in that area. And then also some trees and a trailhead kiosk that shows the Traverse Park trails. And then there's landscaping that goes on the immediate south fence of the tennis courts. So that'll have some shade. And I am also gathering up some ideas for the south end of the skate park to add a little plaza there. We're moving the water fountain to the southwest corner of the skate park and giving them a little plaza and also making it so there's accessible parking. Actually, next week I'm putting in a new ramp into that area. So you'll be able to go in there and then the spectators can hang out because that's a big part of this. This is not just a park just for the kiddos that play. It's a great place for people to just go have lunch and watch the athletes and enjoy being around everybody. So we're gonna make that into like a nice little area to hang out, enjoy yourself. So yeah, so that's happening. We did not receive the grant for the bike pump track, the asphalt pump track. So I stabilized the amount of soil. I think I told you guys about that before, but we basically all the material that was usable material and clean, meaning it didn't have sawdust in it from the building project, I saved because it's got a value to it, and the value for our pile of soil is around $100,000, and that's pretty remarkable. So we'll be utilizing that soil for future projects and at the parks there. the fields, as you know, are just falling apart. The drainage is sinking into the old dump site. And pretty much once you get to just west of where the existing playground is, the new playground, sorry, where the baseball fence line is on the west, that's all the old dump. And so things are starting to sink and, you guys don't know that, right? If you don't know that, go take a walk. And take a peek around it. It's rippled and it's super dangerous. So the goal was always that we would use some of the dirt to fix those fields. And then, some of the dirt would go where the bike skills course is scheduled to go. And I call it a bike skills course. Jason calls it a pump track. It's really in the master plan, a bike park facility, but the interpretation is generally that it would have a hardened surface, most likely asphalt pump track with perhaps some jump lines and maybe some other skill features in that area that's targeting not just children, but all riders versus the tiny woods little skills area, which is really intended for beginner riders or smaller little ones. But it is fun for all the skill levels. If you haven't been over there, that is fun for all abilities as well.
Did they tell you why you didn't get the grant?
That was, that grant came out of nowhere. It was announced like in early September.
Yeah, I
$5 million left over from ARPA money. And all I can tell you is that within a week, the week that I was working on the grant, I had 3 different local organizations ask me for a letter of support for their grant application. So the good news is, and I'm really stoked about this, I don't know if I think it's official now. I think Nixon Land Trust received it for the sled hill. Last I heard that, their grant was on the governor's desk for signature. So we may not have gotten it, but a mile up the road, they received an even larger grant than I applied for, and I asked for $350,000.
And yours, you're not gonna resubmit because the money's gone.
The money's gone, yeah, and the feedback that we got was that it wasn't really intended for municipalities, it was more for like nonprofit organizations, so I just think we had a disadvantage being a city. They were looking for more like nature trail oriented projects, ours was more of an urban trail oriented project. And we were asking for a lot as well. I mean, we asked for $350,000 out of $5 billion. That would have been larger, I assume, in the state that they would have funded.
Sure.
So it was a long shot to go for it. I knew it was going to be competitive. And when I started getting requests from other local groups for letters of support, I
They're
was
like,
like,
what is?
oh, and also we're only like the Panhandle. Like, think of all the groups down in central and southern Idaho. We're probably going for that money as well.
Yeah.
And it's so when a grant comes along that has $0 of match requirement and basically like no strings attached and they want it to be spent right away, everybody wanted that money. But I'm really excited for KLT that they received
Yeah,
it.
totally.
Yeah, and we'll all benefit from that, having better facilities at the sled hill on Pine Street.
Yes.
I just wanted to show you guys this picture. I don't know if you've been over there yet, but it's really grainy. I think I just emailed myself a low quality version of it, but that's the new trail map that Ellie Susness made completely pro bono. Heather worked with Ellie, who's the chair of the Historic Preservation and Arts Commission here, and she used her graphic design skills to design her new trail map. So when Maeve mentioned the kind of trailhead on the other side of the building, we plan to put this map at the other access point to the perimeter trail around the park. And one of the things we did was we showed on the new map, it's really grainy, but the walking distance for all the possible loops you can do. So if you just walk through the playground and around the sports center, past the bike park and around the tennis court, that's exactly a quarter mile. And then the whole perimeter loop is exactly 1 mile. And in fact, if you go walk the inside of the tennis courts, it's 1/6 of a mile. So we know that it's 6 laps around the tennis courts inside, and you can do a mile of indoor walking. And that'll be, as Maeve said, that'll be available as soon as we get those curtains up.
On that, park maintenance is gonna be paving, well, they're gonna construct and pave the segment of trail that goes east of the skate park that goes for Pine Street. So there's gonna be a new trail that goes all the way up on that east side, which is pretty cool. I had it in my plan and deleted it when, I was online.
Okay, so that's fiscal year 25. These projects were planned honestly well before I worked at the city. We had already decided that we were gonna finish Traverse Park in 2025 using the $300,000 or so of Parks Capital Improvement Funds that we have.
To speak to that too, just so you know, those are the projects that are funded that I mean, it's not like that's my only project. I work on planning projects. I work on design projects. I might work on maintenance stuff and help the maintenance. We have, we took the old playground and we redid it, basically all the pieces we could. And we're gonna put that in at City Beach. So I'll be working with maintenance on things like that. But those aren't the projects that make it into the budget book. So we don't call those projects capital improvement projects. There's also all my work that I do up in the watershed and the Little Sand Creek watershed, that's part of my work as well. So there's a lot of projects out there that you may not know about. And I think probably in January, I give you a more cleaner update on what all the breadth of work is that's coming out of the department and who's doing what where, because there's a lot of collaboration with myself and other people in the city. But yeah, the only project that we had money for right now is those tennis courts, but it's not small. And there's, like I said, you've already heard of a couple other projects that are coming in that are already paid for. So Travers is gonna be a little bit busy in the spring, and then I'll move on to whatever else is funded.
So the other reason we wanted your time today was this grant deadline in January for the Department of Parks and Rec grants at the state level.
Hey, Jason, can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
just a
sure.
second? Sorry about that. I just want to remind us that we have until
Yeah,
4.
I'm
So
aware.
we gotta roll.
I'm watching.
I gotta leave.
You're already 30 minutes late, buddy. It's a,
I'll spare
you mean
you.
4? Yeah, we all have to leave.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll be fairly quick. The paper, handout I just gave you is the staff report for next week's council meeting. Joel's getting a preview. This will be posted to the city's, meeting site tomorrow, which is why we had to do this meeting today. I'm also hoping to post the minutes from today, the draft minutes from today's meeting with this, for tomorrow's council agenda posting. I'm trying to be a little bit more proactive here before we approach the deadline for this grant. We're still 7 weeks out, so I'm coming to you guys today. We're gonna look at the City Beach existing conditions over the next few minutes and talk about some of the direction that we've been given from the mayor, as well as some other locally elected officials for improving the existing conditions at City Beach. So we're gonna start by looking at the campground. Nobody knows this campground better than our own Cami Ahmet. She's been managing this campground since the city took ownership of it in 2021. The first season we owned the campground was 2022. A little background. Does everybody know how the city came to own this campground? It was widely discussed in the local press when the previous administration did a land swap with the Cox family, who owned the Edgewater Resort at City Beach, and have since sold that to the Averill family, who are developing the 56 Bridge Street Hotel across the street from the RV park. They got the, I don't know, half acre, third of an acre or so of grassy area in front of Trinity. Not the beach. They didn't get the beach. Their property line is the paved pathway. We still own the beach, of course. That'll always remain public. The city got the RV park. I'm going to show you some concepts that have been developed in the last few years for what to do with this property. But one thing I don't know if anybody anticipated when the city took ownership was what Cami has educated me about, which is that this RV park has become quite the revenue earner for the Parks Department. I'm very thankful that it's considered a park asset because the money gets to go into our Parks Capital Improvement Fund. So you can see here that since we've taken ownership, we've made almost $300,000. The only reason our revenues were low this year was because we had to keep about a fourth of it closed for a big part of the season because of some hazard trees that the railroad was really late at getting to. We knew in like April that they needed to get these trees down. They didn't get them down until, I don't know, August or something. So we couldn't let these 5 sites be used. So we lost actually probably $20,000 in revenues because of that, which is really unfortunate. But despite, I'll show you some pictures, right? Despite its conditions, this RV park is in high demand. It is booked out between $50 and $65 a night, I think is what we're charging, depending on the length of the site. And people want to stay there. I mean, where else are you going to get $50 a night accommodation in downtown Sandpoint,
And
right?
then there's surge pricing on top of that.
Oh, is there? Okay. So this is an aerial view. I took the drone down there a couple days ago to get some pictures of its current conditions. All that equipment that you see there is staged for a sewer lift station project that the Public Works Department is about to begin. So actually just in the south, or not south, looking south. So in the northeast corner of the RV park is the sewer lift station where Maeve's pointing right there. So here in a couple of weeks, they're going to start digging up the ground there to replace a sewer lift station. That's not a parks project. That's a big public works project. It's open from, I think, May through October. Is that right?
Roughly.
Yep, and it's pretty well booked during that time. It does have some deficiencies. It's very rough. It's a gravel surface. It's not very well graded. There's no restroom, there's no shower facilities. I think it's only 110 power. Some of these RVs need 240 or 220. It does have water. It does not have sewer. There's like zero landscaping. There's a handful of picnic tables that get put out. There's no camp host, which makes it kind of tough for us to manage. We get a lot of phone calls. The police get a lot of phone calls on weekends about people who are upset about things. And it's not really connected to the rest of the park, 'cause it's never really been a part of City Beach Park. So, I mean, there's so many opportunities for connection to the park, but there's just nothing there. I'm not an ADA specialist, but it's not probably the most compliant with ADA standards. So what are we thinking about doing? Thinking about applying for this grant. This is actually by far the most well-funded grant program that the state administers for parks. They have almost $6 million available this year. And we were in a meeting with them this week and they've only received 5 applications statewide. You might have heard of this grant before. This is the grant that Bonner County was awarded 2 years ago to expand the RV park at the fairgrounds. And the sheriff took issue with that. And after about a year of back and forth battles and lots of hot Facebook arguments, the state rescinded the money. They said, hey, we don't think you guys are gonna ever come to an agreement on this. So we think this is a good opportunity for Sandpoint, which we hope is a relatively high functioning municipality to pursue those funds. And we believe we're great candidates for that. So Joel, Joel, I'm looking at you, city council, high functioning. What can we do with money from this fund? We can fulfill the purpose of the RV fund grant program, which is to improve RV facilities in the state. We can add restrooms. We can possibly add showers. That's a big request we often get. Upgrade the electrical system. No joke, we had to send our electric contractor down there to replace electric lines that squirrels had chewed through. That's how, advanced our electrical system is done.
Or our squirrels.
Yeah, or our squirrels. We can do landscaping, we can provide maybe Wi-Fi for the campground, do sewer hookups. I mean, these are expensive upgrades. This is a major project where we're looking at probably more than $1 million grant application for this project. What impact could this have? Obviously, we know it's in high demand. It's a big revenue earner for the Parks Department. We think we could probably earn more revenue after these improvements. And, it's premium recreational amenity right at City Beach, right downtown. There's a 5% match. The staff report goes into a lot more detail. That's in front of you. And council will have read that before next week's meeting. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but there's a 5% match with all IDPR grants, which is, we've been looking at possibly for fiscal year 26, putting $50,000 of our parks capital improvement funds towards $1 million project. If we determine that we need to apply for more than that, it would be more of a match on our end. But for bang for buck, if we can get a 20-to-1, grant offer, it's possibly a really good outcome. So that before we get into questions and comments, let me get to the presentation because there's another component to this as well, which is the boat launch. So this is our current boat launch facilities. We've got 2 ramps. One has concrete down to the low water mark, as you can see. One does not. Neither of them have a dock that is usable in the winter. And honestly, this whole boat launch is almost unusable in the winter unless you have a very low draft, small fishing type boat, because the channel in Sand Creek there is only about 2 feet deep. So it's not really usable for half the year. Got some more. Actually, let's go ahead and pull. Okay. So what's the background here? The staff report goes to the background. This was not a project initiated by park staff. This was a project initiated by the mayor and our other local elected official, Mr. Mark Souter, who's our representative down in Boise for District 1. He actually came to the mayor and asked if the city would be willing to pursue these funds because he had concerns about emergency watercraft being able to access the water during this new era. We're looking at a decade of lower water for more months because of the failures of the spill gates at the Albini Falls Dam. So we're looking at about an extra month each year of low water. And right now, the closest low water launch sites are in Laclede and Hope. Emergency vehicles cannot launch in Sandpoint anywhere. So it was actually Congressman Souter who asked if we would pursue these funds. He also highlighted in a phone conversation with me last week the recreational benefits. I was thinking, okay, yeah, that seems like really good project. You know, sheriff, fire can access the water closer to the bridges. If there's boating emergencies around Sandpoint, they don't have to, you know, go out to Hope to launch. But he also highlighted the fact that this could have recreational benefits as well, since boaters are going to be facing later high water seasons now, and this would make this boat launch facility available in the spring, whereas they might have to wait, you know, an extra month with the situation at Albany Falls Dam. So recreational boaters will be able to access as well. So the proposal that we'd be exploring, depending on costs, would include dredging about 1,500 feet of Sand Creek to make the channel deeper. And we have no idea what that would cost. I've reached out to a local contractor, Kramer, who does boats and dredging work around the lake. And they plan to give us a ball field estimate in the next week or two so that we can at least know what amount to ask for. And possibly replacement of one or both of these docks that you see here so that they're actually usable in the winter. I've spoken to the Bonner County Marine Deputy, Doug McGeechee. He kind of runs the Marine Division at the county, and he is extremely interested in having winter moorage in Sandpoint for a sheriff's boat. You can't moor at any of our facilities right now in the winter. So to make one of these docks usable for a sheriff's boat, the fire chief, Gavin Gilcrease here at the city, likewise said to be able to tie a fireboat up in the winter here would be really valuable for the fire department.
I think the way the rules read for the Department of Lands is they can even be eligible for a boat garage.
A boat garage.
They're not allowable to do for anybody except fire
Okay,
Hmm.
I'm sure if
for the
I,
purpose of what you're.
fire
doing.
and sheriff, law enforcement or just
Generally, I
fire?
believe, well, I mean, they could use them together, but
Yeah.
you would maybe ask for it under fire, but there's a provision in there, but you could think about like having more storage waterward
Yeah.
than, you know, to increase your footprint.
Okay. Yeah, kind of depends on cost. So the funds available for this grant are around 1.2 to 1.5 million a year.
Mhm.
And we can't get all of that. The rules are that no single county can get more than half of the funds available in the Waterways Improvement Fund. Some of the statistics that you'll see in the staff report, 40% of the boat registrations in the state of Idaho are in Kootenai and Bonner County. And we're like alone, like big chunk of that. So even though we're one of the smaller counties population wise, the existence of Lake Pend Oreille and Priest Lake make us a really strong candidate for waterway improvement funds grants. The last time we got the WIS, Maeve put it to use and rebuilt the docks at Memorial Field. So this is also a grant that actually the District 1 representative on this grant committee reached out to me and Maeve, and he said, his name's Ray. He's quoted in this. He gathered some data for the staff report around increases in boat crossings into Bonner County. 26,000 people drove their boats through a checkpoint last year to come into Bonner County. That's up 40% since, or no, up, what did it say? I don't know. It was 19,000 just 5 years ago. So we've seen a huge increase in out of state and out of country boat traffic into Bonner County as well. But Ray Papella reached out to me and Maeve and requested a meeting. He basically called us into the conference room upstairs and he said, why hasn't the city applied for this grant? You guys haven't applied since like 2022 or 2021 when we got the grant for Memorial boat launch. And he said, we are desperate to give this money to Bonner County because Kootenai's getting half of it every year. And they're going for a big chunk this year to do some project. I'm not sure what it was. Our grant administrator wouldn't tell us, but Kootenai County wants to do something down on Lake Coeur d'Alene with that money. And they're all, the state people are like, Bonner County, Sandpoint could be applying for these funds. So this is the Parks project. We're bringing it to the Parks Commission. It's kind of an opportunity that I wouldn't have really thought of myself, but with the request from Mr. Souter and the District 1 representative for this fund reaching out to the park staff saying, hey, you guys should be applying for this. We thought we'd bring it to you guys.
Do you know which grant that Hayburn State Park applied for?
Yeah.
They received way more. They received multi-million-dollar project. They're tearing out all those boat garages. They're like completely replacing
Really?
on a full grant, like a big one.
Wow.
And it'd be interesting to see, like,
There are other grants for these sorts of things. I,
Yeah.
I talked to, our previous parks director yesterday, and he told me about when they did the marina, that windbag. It
Yeah.
wasn't just waterways improvement fund, it was LWCF obviously, but also one that's specifically for, marinas that serve boats larger than 26 feet. It's like, I gotta learn about this, but
yeah,
there,
but Hayward
there's
might
like,
be a good person to call, the Hayward
Yeah.
State Park, because they just got it.
that's
They're in
Creepy
the
County, or is
process
that for the south? Is that,
Uh,
Benoit or,
it's in Benoit County,
Benoit.
yeah. But they're in the process of pulling all those,
okay.
like, pulling it all out because it's all being,
Yeah, and that might, upgrading our docks in general, is something we should be looking at over the next 5 years, probably.
and if you could pair several grants together to get more.
Yeah.
Phase it.
So I did want to show you guys this. We don't, like just doing kind of grab bag parks projects. We like to plan out ahead of time. So Maeve, do you want to talk a little bit about the Parks Master Plan? I just put a screenshot from the
Yeah.
current concept.
Yeah, so
And
the,
keep in mind, we have 15 minutes, we have to be done.
the Parks Master Plan identified City Beach as receiving upgrades. And one of the big things that it identifies in this one is the boat launch would be reconfigured for improved access for emergency response. And then also there would be additional parking for boat storage vehicles, like trucks and trailers. And then that plan was considered during the 2023 downtown design report, which actually was a year and a half of work. I was on the technical advisory committee for that project as well. While that is an adopted plan, it's some of the top designers and engineers in the entire area that project. So a lot of thought and engineering and landscape architects worked on this. Keep in mind that it was not, that plan is also a concept and not approved by city council. So I always would provide you that information, but then also defer to the plan that was adopted, which is the 2020 Parks and Rec Master Plan. And that being said, you can see in the design report that they realigned where the boat launch and then the RV park was taken out completely. So what we would do for this one is essentially create a hybrid version and only focus on the boat launch area.
Maybe if I may, just to show you what you're looking at here, this is the adopted Parks Master Plan, okay? The cost of doing what's in this plan is, for this park alone, is probably $100 million
3
more.
years ago.
Like, not, probably not. But it actually called for getting rid of the RV park and moving the boat launch down here, and then turning this into boat trailer parking where the RVs currently can.
Which we don't know that we could actually do. It was never studied
Right.
as far as the depths of the water or so.
The 2023
That's the difference.
waterfront design report was keeping the boat launches where they are. You can see them here. Still getting rid of the RV park to make room for more vehicle parking and boat trailer parking, but doing this expansive, dock rebuild of the docks. It actually had a pedestrian overpass crossing the creek there. Also, $100 million project.
Also
So-
not studied.
So as much as we would love to say we can implement one of these, we just need $1 million. These are $100 million projects. So the current concept, and this is, if you've been following Mayor Grimm's kind of mantra since he started in January, he's all about maintaining what we have.
infrastructure.
Yes.
Basic infrastructure, and when it comes to parks projects, he's basically made it clear, under my administration, we're not doing any $100 million parks projects. Not only that, we'd never do that. I mean, the money's just not out there for those kinds of projects unless, 10 Jim Russells come along and give us $10 million each. So in the spirit of maintaining what we have, this is kind of how we came to improving the existing boat launch, improving the existing RV park, and hopefully resurfacing this entire parking lot. I just wanted to show one picture of the I don't know, I've been to Southeast Asia. This reminds me, like, you don't walk through the jungle aloud because you might hit a landmine. It's like you don't drive too fast through the parking lot. I literally 2 years ago saw a boat trailer leaving the parking lot, have its axle ripped off when it went into a pothole. It launched his boat. He was taking his boat trailer back out, hit a pothole, and the axle tore off the boat trailer. This parking lot is rough. So today, we're not asking for money or for your permission to repave the parking lot, but I hope after next Wednesday, Joel, you're gonna learn about a possible funding source for repaving this parking lot as well.
Only if it's going to have some magic spikes that pop up for the teenagers. Otherwise, I'm like,
Yeah.
Kidding.
So we might be coming across some funding
How about-
for resurfacing and restriping the parking lot too, but that'll be on next week's council agenda as well. That's not a parks related project. That is a parks related project, but the funding's not grant related.
Just want to talk about the timeline. I don't know if that's.
Um,
So the timeline would be, you can't obviously jump into construction if we got the money right away. We can't jump into construction without the design first and the permitting. And the permitting could take months, several months. So we would have to start design this year and permitting to the conceptual level. I think the RV park can mostly be designed in-house with our in-house staff. And then utilizing engineering for just a few things. And then if we have a bathroom, it would depend on the bathroom if we needed additional professional services. But with the RV park, with the boat launch, we would need obviously some technical support on that end. And I recommend that we utilize the same process that we did on the previous docks over at War Memorial Field, where it was basically a conceptual engineering design that was designed well enough and accurately enough that I was able to get feasibility and enough costs so that we could apply for the grants, but then also we could pursue the permitting. Because the permitting, you want to get that in the queue, and with the Army Corps and Department of Lands, you want to get that in the queue as soon as possible. So the target would be to get that in the queue next September, ideally, or next August. So working backwards from that, I'd be in design as soon as we got the funding. And then the construction would happen in 2026.
yes, sir.
Does anyone know the entity that's doing those islands in Clark Fork and the Pack River when they come into the lake?
Yeah, one of my girlfriends is one of the project
What is that,
managers.
who's doing that? What department of? And I bring that up because, okay, when
Do
you
you know, well, the Army Corps owns that, but the fishing game,
fishing
with
game is part of
the-
it.
the fishing game is basically like Pete Rust is the name of the person responsible for the project.
I
The fishing
Bring it
game.
up because I sat through a presentation where they're planning to do more of that. You dredge, you should sell them the dirt because I know they've spent tens of millions.
Like filling in some of the,
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Well,
fun,
it depends on who owns the dirt, because out
it
in
does.
City Beach,
Yeah.
it might be public trust, and the state might own it, and you might have to pay
Yeah.
to take it, because we all own that soil. And the Army Corps portions, that private submerge, that's owned by the Corps, so they technically own the soil. It's like weird, it gets.
just trying to help you get rid of dirt
Mhm.
and make money.
I mean,
Like water.
they can have my portion.
so, I did want to just let you guys know that just because we're like talking to you about these two particular projects today, doesn't mean we're not also, in the Parks Department thinking about all sorts of other projects we can do. While I had my drone in the air, I flew it over the basketball courts, and I really want to repaint and put new hoops at these basketball courts. We want to do the same thing across the street here. We want to fix playgrounds. We want to do all sorts of little projects around the city. This is all part of maintaining what we have. We know you have an interest in Hickory Park. We do too. That's something that we want to do. These are like the big grant funded projects we're talking about. And if in fiscal year 26, which we have to start doing the budget for that in February, if we say, okay, we need to put $100,000 of our parks capital improvement funds towards the match for these two grants, that still leaves over $200,000 for parks projects that we would be planning to do. So this is not all we plan to do in 25 and 26. This is just what we have to talk about now because the grant deadline's in 6 weeks. So just so you know, like, this is not, it's not to say Dave isn't gonna work on anything else. We want to do basketball courts, we want to fix playground equipment, we want to improve as many of our parks, little projects that we can. I mean, if you've seen the courts, I look out my office at the courts across the street here, they look like an earthquake hit the basketball courts over there. That's gonna be a really cool project that I'm gonna personally prioritize in this coming couple of years, just fixing some of our outdoor play surfaces.
Makes you a
Yes.
better dribbler.
So with that, you are required to do improvement, you have to make it ADA accessible. So just keep that in mind, because in places where we don't currently have ADA access, meaning accessible pathway, with parking close by, with certain proximity, we have to add those things. So sometimes these projects grow, especially here where a lot of our courts, for example, haven't been touched for 20+ years. And so with that, there'll be a combination effort of, I'll be coming back in probably January, not on vacation. And we'll be kicking off, an analysis program that I have that will utilizes all of you as kick off this kind of a park report card and do our own analysis so that you can help generate interest in that it's a good way to communicate. And then also we'll take a look at parks together because I want to teach you to be, boots on the ground. I want to do an actual example with you and show you how I see things. And so your eye will start to pick up all the things that Jason sees from his window. And then once you start to see, you can't unsee it. I'm sorry now. But then from there, we'll distill and we'll identify what can we do? What can we do with our labor, our parks maintenance, with the in-house team and volunteers? And are there any business owners out there? Are there any nonprofits that we can partner with that are doing things that we can maybe realize some other efficiencies from? And then from there, we'll identify which ones are the big monsters in the room and the giant expensive projects. And those ones we'll target for future funding and future CIP funds. So just to let you know, that's all on the plate. Obviously, I'm a little booked right now, so.
Does anybody
we'll
know what,
kick this off in the
does
new
anybody
year.
know what this is? Sure. Happen. Yeah.
Is that like a future?
This is the city owned right of way that goes right up to. Or. End of Euclid. Euclid turns. This is the kind of thing that we want to look at, opportunities for like just improving little neighborhood access points and neighborhood parks. That the mayor just today told the leadership team that he wants the Parks Commission in a future meeting in the near future to look at opportunities like this. It's a city-owned property, it's waterfront property, it's only a few blocks from Third Avenue Pier, which is a city park. But how could we activate that city-owned right-of-way, put a little park bench down there, put some steps down into the water. Once you're below the high water mark, anybody's welcome to go swim or walk in the winter. This is actually a popular winter walking area once it's all frozen. So little projects like this, we plan to bring to the Parks Commission next year as well. This is the RV park and boat launch are not the only things you guys will be hearing
Do you
from
know
us.
there's like a committee, like Eric, Burbanker, I think is on it?
Eric Brubaker, yeah.
Yeah, that's looking at that public
yeah.
access, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Hopefully you're
part of
targeting
the,
that part. Okay.
yeah, we're part of that committee.
Okay.
They're doing the KLT is leading an effort to develop a water trail from Priest River to
Mhm.
basically from Old Town across all of Lake Monterey and the river.
Wow.
And as part of that, they surveyed every single right of way that dead ends at the lake.
Yeah, we did some research with them.
And this is one that we looked at.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, Chris, we should hand it back to you.
You guys are tackling some big stuff. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I guess one request that I'd have, and I apologize if this has already been done and I missed it, but if we could get this beforehand.
I finished like an hour ago.
Yeah, okay.
It's
And I know it's kind of,
scrambling. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
in the future, like we should,
yeah,
Yeah,
that way you
this-
don't have to
this is
spend
the
the whole
staff
meeting
report.
talking to us about it. We can actually
Yeah.
have conversations about it. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but in this case, we have what we have. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate what you're doing. And we are tasked with voting on these two proposals, these two grant.
I have one quick question.
Thanks.
If you get the boat launch and you get the RV grants awarded, does that then forever kind of eliminate the other plan of maybe moving the boat launches to the RV spot? It would kind of like memorialize.
Oh, I don't know that it would memorialize the RV park, but what it would do is we would, in that process, through that process, we would need to go adjust, make an adjustment to the master plan and get that adopted by city council. And that is something that we probably would have to do anyway before we kick off the project, at least in my planning expertise.
But not before you apply for the.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we don't get the grant, there's no reason to make it.
Yeah.
amendment. If we got the grant, then before we could accept the grant, we probably need to amend the Parks Master Plan to keep the RV park where it is.
So just so I'm clear, this is two different,
It's been fun.
Right.
Recreational vehicles.
so what if any are the issues that might stem from only getting one?
We just wouldn't do the other project. They're two different projects.
Yeah, I mean, but there's not, I mean, as far as design and stuff, they can exist independently. Correct. Yeah, because that's a possibility, right? That one
For sure.
gets green lighted and one doesn't.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Have you looked at alternative spots for parking if the RV park goes in and you don't put the boat parking
Well,
there?
part of the RV renovation project would be formalizing the parking at the entrance to the RV park, which currently is like not even really striped. I think there's like 5 spots there that have been leased to the hotel in the past. we think we could probably fit 25 or 30 cars just in that area. It's like a little over an acre, I think. So it would, we would be redoing the, parking at the entrance to the RV park as well as part of this project. That's actually described in Stafford. Yeah, and that.
And that would
doesn't
be,
solve,
that would
like,
be
the
available
boat
to
trailer parking
anyone,
issue.
not just people that are patrons of, not just people that have patronized the park, the RV park, but that would be
Right.
general,
Yeah, that would be
publicly
public parking.
available parking.
But it's still, like, parking's always gonna be an issue, City Beach.
Yeah.
I will give you guys a heads up. The mayor is, one of the things he wants to do in 2025 is a study and a proposal for paid parking at City Beach. And that's gonna be very controversial. But he's also said it's only feasible if there can be like two tiers, like either free for locals, or maybe you come get a sticker at City Hall for locals, and then non-Sandpoint residents or non-Bonner County residents would pay a different rate. So, oops, lock Tyler out.
Is the hotel, I can't remember on the plan, is there parking going up,
They've got structured parking,
tiered?
structured, yeah,
That'd be,
more than one level.
yeah.
Are they 3 stories,
Tune into next week's council meeting.
7 stories?
All right, guys, we gotta end this meeting. I apologize. We gotta take the last minute here to
If we
go
can
to
get a
these last. What's that?
If we could get a motion to recommend
Yes,
to council that planning or park staff apply for these
I'm
grants.
supposed to read something here,
Oh,
Jason.
thank you.
I would
Sorry.
entertain a motion to recommend to city council that they direct staff to apply for the Waterways Improvement Fund grant.
I'll make a recommendation that you're.
A motion.
Motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I apologize. We don't have any time for discussion. If you want to abstain, you can. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I would also entertain a motion to recommend to city council that we direct staff to apply for the recreational vehicle fund grant. Which is which one is that?
To improve the
For the RV
That's it,
park.
RV park.
Yeah. Yeah. Second,
It was Gwen.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.
The,